Alright, hello, welcome to your New York City fire and crime news for the week of Monday, May 24th, 2021. I will be making an announcement right now that because of the Memorial Day holiday, we will be postponing our update to next Tuesday, June 1st. So I want to be observing the holiday weekend and I guess just be thankful to the men and women who have sacrificed for our country. And, you know, as you're traveling this weekend, and I know a lot of people are itching to go out after being in a year of lockdown, just be thankful for all those people who gave us our freedom to enjoy a 4-day weekend if you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. So, yeah, so we'll be pushing our fire and crime news to Tuesday, and this week we have a lot of fire activity, believe it or not. We had a fire to kill the child last week in Brooklyn, let's say the past week. And then we had a fire that ripped through a Chinese restaurant in Greenwich Village. And we will get to that. And we have a lot of news we got to cover in Queens later on in this video, because there's a lot we got to cover. A lot we got to cover in Queens as usual. So let's start off with the fire update. First up, resident dead after a 2-alarm fire rips through a Brooklyn home. Let's see what we got here. So it says that fire marshals were investigating the cause of a deadly 2-alarm inferno in Brooklyn on May 19th. According to sources, the blaze broke out at 6:25 a.m. at 17 Pulaski Street. Authorities said the fire ignited on the top floor of the 4-story residence, quickly spreading to 2 adjoining structures with heavy smoke and flames. More than 100 fire department personnel from 25 units rushed the scene to contain the fire. While battling the blaze, firefighters pulled an unidentified resident from the burning building who was subsequently pronounced dead. Fire department sources indicated that firefighters, upon inspecting the dwelling, did not see working smoke detectors inside. No other injuries were reported at the scene. Firefighters were able to place the fire under control just after 7 a.m. So, at least they contained it under an hour. I'll give them credit. But there was another incident that Channel 7 covered last week. So, let me see if I can find it. Let's see if we can find it here. Yeah, we'll get to this later on when we get to the Queens update. Yes, this is the one that they, yeah, this is the teenager, right? I just want to confirm that this is the same article. Let me just, try to mute the video. Hopefully it doesn't play. Yes, so it was a teenager.
And a fatal fire ripped through a home in Brooklyn, killing a teenager. It broke out this morning on the 3rd floor of the building in Pulaski Street in Bed-Stuy. Firefighters discovered the 15-year-old boy dead inside the building. The cause of the fire still under investigation as well.
So yeah, I was correct. I knew Channel 7 later confirmed the story because Bill Ritter was mentioning the other night that they may have found the cause of fire, but I'm not too sure if that is accurate information because it was brought up on the air last week. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, this is a big deal right here, okay? This is a Chinese restaurant on Bleecker Street, and I was talking to someone on Twitter over the weekend, and I'm not, you know, taking this out of context, but if you guys have been closely following my crime and fire updates lately, you have been noticing that in the Greenwich Village area of Manhattan, there have been a lot of fires recently reported on Bleecker Street. Not too far from where Houston Street is. And not too far from where Washington Square Park is located, along with New York University. So, I do want to commend the 6th Precinct. They deserve some recognition as well, because they did respond to this, the NYPD. So, to the 6th Precinct, they should get a little commendation over there. Okay, so let's read this, because sadly I have to report that 2 firefighters did suffer minor injuries while battling this 5-alarm inferno. And the reason why the Firewire confirmed that this was a 5-alarm was because they were requesting more additional FDNY units to be dispatched from Lower Manhattan. So there were additional ladders and engine companies that were called in because 2 firefighters were injured. So it says here, and I was closely following this. As soon as Citizen App sent me a notification, I had to closely monitor this on Saturday morning. So it happened on May 22nd, which was this past Saturday, at 12:36 a.m. This was at a Chinese restaurant located at 163 Bleecker Street, a 2-story structure that houses Uncle Ted's Chinese cuisine on the first floor and a yoga studio above it. The FDNY reported that the stubborn fire quickly spread through the structure and threatened to spread to the adjoining buildings. That led eventually to a 5th alarm call that brought out more than 200 firefighters and 44 units to conduct exterior operations to limit the fire spread. So yeah, as you can see, this was the smoke. So we are going to save this for our thumbnail this week, because notable FDNY fires I try to save and keep, of course, in my thumbnail collection. Okay, so it says here that the firefighters did suffer minor wounds and were taken to a nearby hospital. Thankfully, the good news was no civilians were injured. So this fire took almost 6 hours to contain. So the marshal is going to investigate the cause of the fire. So according to the FDNY's Instagram feed, they say here that 44 units and 200 members did respond to this fire, including multiple other units from Lower Manhattan and other members that came from Lower Manhattan as well. There were reports that some FDNY units did come from the Chelsea area, but that is an unconfirmed report at this time. Deputy Assistant Chief Michael Gallo reports members battled the stubborn fire and a transition to exterior operations was necessary to protect the neighboring structures. Old building construction that was left around before the COVID-19 pandemic with tin ceilings made it difficult for members operating to access to extinguish. 2 firefighters were treated and transported to local hospitals. So, at least the FDNY did post on their Instagram. I'll give them credit. So let me just see this. Yeah, so as you can tell, a lot of smoke in the area, obviously. So just alarming that this is happening in the Greenwich Village area lately. You know, it just seems to be a pattern of all these fires happening near Washington Square Park. I just personally find this very alarming. Okay, let's see what else we got. We have a vacant building fire, 1075 call at 64th Place and 68th Avenue. So this was transmitted first by engine 286. Then earlier today we had a reported fire in Brooklyn at 1404 East 34th Street and Avenue L in the East Midwood section of Brooklyn. So not too far from where my mom's friends live in Mill Basin. It says here that basement fire, 2-story frame. Yikes. And then there was another fire today in, looks like Laurelton. Garage fire at 144-11 225th Street. Not too far from where Brookville Park is. So that's just the notable activity today. I can go on and on and on, but then it will make the video longer than it has to be. Alright, so let's move on now to our crime update. And sticking to the topic of Greenwich Village, and I have this pretty organized today because AM New York is clearly on the mark today. I will give them a lot of credit. And by the way, they merged with Metro back in 2019. So it's not 2 newspapers now, it's 1 newspaper. It's now Metro and then AM New York. So least that's useful when I go back to the subway system, because I know where to get the newspapers from in Kew Gardens. So it says here that there was a fight in Greenwich Village that led for a shooting. So let's see where this happened. Right by 6th Avenue. So it says a gunman shot a 32-year-old in Greenwich Village back on May 13th. This occurred at 11:20 p.m. in front of an apartment building near Waverly Place and 6th Avenue. According to law enforcement sources, the victim engaged the gunman in a verbal dispute for reasons that have been yet to be disclosed. The argument then turned bloody when the suspect pulled out a firearm and began shooting the victim, striking the man in the left wrist, left forearm, and groin area. Following the gunfire, the perpetrator fled the scene on foot in an unknown direction. The 6th Precinct is closely investigating this situation. Police said the victim wound up being taken to Bellevue hospitals by private means. He was listed later on in stable condition, so at least the victim's going to be okay. The image that police provided shows the suspect wearing a black baseball cap, black mask, along with a black hooded sweatshirt with likeliness of the Mona Lisa portrait on the front, a black jacket, blue jeans, and white sneakers. The suspect appears to have a dark complexion as well, as you can see here. Anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of the suspect could be, you can call the Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS in Español 888-577-7482, which is pista. You can also submit tips online at www.nypdcrimestoppers.com. You can also go on Twitter at NYPDTips, or call the 6th Precinct at 212-741-4811. Again, for the 6th Precinct, the phone number is 212-741-4811. So they really should at least give out the phone number to the precinct, because if 6th Precinct, and I know them very well, they patrol Washington Square parking lot, at least give out their phone number. I guess not. Now let's get to more violence. And in fact, I have to sadly report that there was a shooting on the F line. In fact, 2 shootings, believe it or not, from what Jonathan and I were discussing on the phone this morning. So I'll find the first incident. If it's not in this article, I'll get to it when we get to Queens News. I'll just open up a new tab if I have to. So let's see what we got. Another bloody weekend in New York City. 5 take bullets in Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx. Okay, here we go. So it says 3 people were shot and injured in Upper Manhattan in the span of 3 hours. A 17-year-old male was shot in the back of the corner of Frederick Douglass Boulevard and West 120th Street at 10:13 p.m. This happened last night. There was another shooting in Harlem, grazed a 43-year-old man at the corner of West 140th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem. Then, another incident in the wee hours of this morning happened where a 21-year-old man took a bullet to his left calf in front of an apartment at 135 West 143rd Street, yes, at 12:46 this morning. Now, here's the thing. That in these cases, all of the victims were taken to Harlem Hospital. And thankfully, I can happily report that all of the 3 victims that were taken to Harlem Hospital are in non-life-threatening condition and are stable. So, sadly, one of the victims is not cooperating with police. Here we go. And then we have a shooting that happened in Woodhaven. That happened last night. 35-year-old man was critically injured. The shooting happened at 11:31 last night in front of a home off 98th Street in Park Lane South in Woodhaven. Good news is the victim was taken to nearby Jamaica Hospital emergency room, where he was listed in critical condition with life-threatening... Oh, so this is bad news. My bad. This is bad news. Excuse me, because the Harlem situation's different. Critical condition with life-threatening injuries in Queens. And then, last incident to report. This happened early this morning in the Bronx. 18-year-old woman was shot at the corner of Beekman Avenue and St. Mary Street in the Bronx. According to law enforcement, the victim was standing at the location when an unknown shooter in a vehicle pulled up and began firing rounds, striking her on the lower back. At this point, police do not know whether she was the intended target of the shooting. So, this victim in Harlem is okay. But the one in Queens, that is a serious situation, because that victim is facing life-threatening injuries. So, they did make an arrest for another shooting that happened in Harlem. So let me just read this. 2 men were charged early Monday morning for allegedly shooting a 26-year-old man to death at the Lexington houses in East Harlem. The shooting that happened on Saturday, May 8th. Thomas Ruiz of Boston Road and Jonathan Torino of Fulton Avenue faced murder and weapon possession charges for the shooting and killing of Michael Morndus, age 26, of West 181st Street in Washington Heights. Monklus was found fatally shot in the torso inside a stairwell of an apartment building with a public housing complex at 110 East 99th Street. EMS units pronounced him dead at the scene. According to sources familiar with the investigation, both Ruiz and Tortino were tied to the crime through an ongoing investigation. Police sources said Ruiz, who had picked up on an unrelated crime, made incriminating statements to detectives during questioning when he allegedly placed him and Tortino at the scene of the homicide. Well, this is a good transition into this story then. Man found stabbed to death in lobby of a Brooklyn hotel. The NYPD is investigating the death of a man who was stabbed in a Brooklyn hotel. At 9:09 p.m., back on Tuesday, May 18th, officers responded to a 911 call regarding an assault near the Archwell Hotel at 9 Malcolm X Boulevard. Upon their arrival, police found a 47-year-old man lying in the lobby of the building with a stab wound to his chest. Sadly, the victim was taken to nearby New York City Health and Hospital's King County Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. The victim's identity is being withheld pending family notification. There is an ongoing investigation as no arrests have been made at this time. There you go. Good transition. And then while we are on the topic of more violent crime, we have this. Crook snatches necklace from 71-year-old woman's neck in the Bronx. So there is a surveillance video. We might be able to play it afterwards. Okay, good. So we do have a surveillance video. So this incident happened back on Wednesday, May 19th. Cops are looking for a crook who robbed a woman inside a pawn shop in the Bronx. A 71-year-old woman was inside Bronx Pawnbrokers at 301 Kingsbridge Road, where she was approached by an unknown man. The man proceeded to grab the woman by her neck and snatch her necklace, which is valued at $400. The suspect then fled the scene to a black SUV with the necklace. The victim suffered lacerations to her neck but refused medical attention. The NYPD released a video that showed the robbery taking place. The vehicle depicts a black SUV in the exterior footage, which is not the vehicle that the unidentified male fled in, which was parked beyond camera range. There's an ongoing investigation. No arrests have been made. So, let's just see what happened here in the surveillance video. So police are looking for a suspect who was last seen wearing a blue shirt with shorts It appears to be sandals. Could be sandals, could be sneakers. Too hard to tell. But he is wearing beige shorts in the video and was also seen wearing a black face mask. Now we're going to move on to very unacceptable stuff that has been happening in the Jewish community lately. And what is this, you might be wondering what's going on? Well, if you are not aware of what's going on in international news, the Israelis and Palestinians are fighting again due to terrorist group Hamas firing rockets at Israel. If you're not aware, last week President Joe Biden was able to negotiate a peace deal. The Palestinians and Israelis are on high tensions right now. So this has led to violent protests in New York City in the past 2 weeks. And one of these examples happened to a man from Long Island. Cops are looking for a group of 5 who brutally assaulted and hurled anti-Semitic statements at a 29-year-old man in Midtown during protest over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On Saturday, the NYPD released images of the angry mob responsible for the violent assault, which occurred at 6:44 p.m. in the area of 1604 Broadway, so literally in Times Square. During a preliminary investigation, police determined that the group approached the victim and subsequently knocked him to the ground and assaulted him. They shouted anti-Semitic statements and slurs at him during the assault, authorities said. Amid the beatdown, cops reported the victim wound up being pepper sprayed, punched, and kicked by the mob, and even struck with crutches. Officers from the Midtown North Precinct responded to a 911 call about an assault in process. They found the injured victim at the location. EMS rushed the victim to Bellevue Hospital in stable condition. During a canvass of the area, police apprehended a 23-year-old man connected to the assault at the corner of West 47th Street and Broadway. The other remains at large at this time. And then there was a separate incident involving a woman who was injured after fireworks were lit in the same area. So not too far. I believe this is the one that happened in the Diamond District. Let's see. Because if this happened in the Diamond District, I could tell if this was nearby 5th and 6th Avenue, because that's not too far from where Rockefeller Plaza is. Oh yeah, that's definitely the Diamond District. So it says here, this happened on May 20th. At 6 p.m., a number of vehicles were traveling together westbound on West 47th Street near 7th Avenue in the Diamond District. An unknown individual, possibly multiple individuals from one of the vehicles, threw and then lit fireworks in the vicinity of 37 West 47th Street. 2 videos posted on Twitter, which we will not play, show a group of men carrying a Palestinian flag and wearing the colors of the flag. One person was quoted appearing to yell "Zionist" among other expletives, and in the second video, a bang is heard and the flash of light can be seen. So again, we're not going to play that, but I am going to bleep what I just said out, of course. A 55-year-old woman suffered minor burns to her back as a result of the explosion. She was taken to Bellevue Hospital in stable conditions. No arrests have been made. The Hate Crimes Task Force is investigating. So again, I discussed why this is happening. I don't need to get into it again. And believe it or not, my dad made me aware of this story, because I was literally wondering, why couldn't I find it on AM New York's website? And then I found it, and then, because when my dad told me the Diamond District, he's like, son, did you hear what happened near Rockefeller Plaza? I'm like, no. And he told me what happened. It was 2 blocks north of Bookoff on 45th Street. And I'm literally sick to my stomach hearing that this had to happen right by Bookoff. So, I mean, this is very scary times right now, folks. It's bad enough that there have been anti-Asian attacks that have been happening in the past couple of months. Now this? And then this happened in Borough Park over the weekend. Bill de Blasio found City will avenge anti-Semitic hate crimes in Brooklyn. So, this is the last one we're going to read. I promise. But again, this is a big deal because, I'm just sick to my stomach what's been going on. And I'll just say this right now. And I know I don't want to really make this political. But I really wish the president could negotiate a meeting between the leader of Palestine and Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because the Israelis and Palestinians have not spoken on U.S. soil in 21 years. So something has got to give this time. Alright, so it says here that justice will be served after meeting with members of the Jewish community in Brooklyn to discuss the recent slew of anti-Semitic hate crimes, stating that the city will not turn a blind eye to this hatred. The mayor joined the chief of department, Rodney Harrison, along with Jewish leaders of the 66th precinct in Borough Park to condemn a series of anti-Semitic attacks and threats. So, here is a couple of the incidents that happened in Borough Park over the weekend. Police say both incidents under investigation took place on Saturday evening, May 22nd. One of which saw 3 men leave a blue Toyota Camry and harass 4 victims who fled into a Borough Park synagogue. Police say the trio then hammered on the entrance while making anti-Semitic threats before fleeing the scene and vandalizing a nearby vehicle in the process. The second episode occurred on Ocean Parkway in Kensington. According to police sources, 2 young men were accosted by 2 other men who authorities say attacked the teens during brutal punches. And I know Channel 4 had mentioned that in one of these incidents, they demanded that a couple teenagers would say pro-Palestinian remarks, but the teens refused and they got into a scrap. So that's what happened. So EMS did treat the victims at the 66th precinct. So it's just sick to my stomach that this is happening, all just because this 70-plus year battle of Israelis battling Palestinians continues to happen. So we do have pictures of the suspect. So I will mention that since the 66th precinct is getting involved in this, I will give out the phone number if you do want to give them a call and don't want to have to deal with Crime Stoppers. So if you know the whereabouts of these victims, you are also encouraged to call the 66th precinct at 718-851-5611. Again, the 66th precinct is looking for 4 suspects linked to connections of anti-Semitic attacks in the confines. So again, that's 718-851-5611. Alright, so let's move on. This is our last article from AM New York, and then we're going to move on to the Queens Courier. And then hopefully, maybe there's some information about the shooting that happened on the F train this morning. No, it happened last night. Excuse me. Yeah, it happened last night. That's what Charlton told me. Okay, let's see here. Cops seek driver who killed 74-year-old woman in Brooklyn hit and run. The NYPD is looking for a driver that behind a deadly hit and run that killed a 74-year-old woman in Brooklyn on May 19th. Authorities say at 11:19 p.m. on that evening, a 911 call was sent out regarding a woman struck by a vehicle in front of 1355 East 80th Street. Upon their arrival, the officers found the 74-year-old elderly victim named Maureen Fraser unconscious and unresponsive, with trauma to her head. A preliminary investigation found that the victim was attempting to cross East 80th Street when she was hit by an unidentified white van, which was heading southbound on East 80th Street. The van did not remain at the scene after hitting Fraser. The victim was taken to nearby Brookdale Hospital where she was pronounced dead. So, I'll just say this. This is not a good way to give out information in terms of the location. What avenue is this by? Oh, this is Dyker Heights. Yeah, I know exactly where this area is. right by the golf course. This happened right by 77th Street, between 76th and 77th, right by the Italian restaurant. Yikes. Right in Diker Heights. Okay, let's move on to this, because we have to talk about this story. Motorist fatally strikes man who was running across the Grand Central Parkway. A man died after he was struck by a motorist as he was running across the Grand Central Parkway near Roosevelt Avenue. Police say the man was struck by a Volkswagen Jetta that was driven by a 20-year-old man a little after 11:30 p.m. on Friday, May 14th. The incident happened within the confines of the 110 precinct, which covers Corona and Elmhurst. When officers arrived at the scene, they found the man who was struck lying unconscious in the roadway with severe body trauma. EMS responded to the incident and transported the man to New York Presbyterian Hospital, so the victim was taken to Booth Memorial Medical Center, in short words, where he was pronounced dead according to authorities. Further investigation by the NYPD Highways District Collision Investigation Squad found that the deceased man had been running across the Grand Central Parkway on the westbound lane of the traffic before he was struck by a vehicle. The man has not been identified pending proper family notification, according to police. The driver did remain on the scene, so this is not a hit and run, so that's very good news. That's the last thing we need to hear, another hit and run that happened. So there is transit news we gotta cover because, you know, there's just so much we gotta cover in Queens. I mean, I'll try to see what I can cover, but there's a couple stuff we're gonna get into. So, first thing we need to cover, this is very urgent. We have to get into this. And I'll look for it right now because I know NYC Alerts did tweet this last night. So let's see if we can find it. Let's see. No, it was here last night. Yeah, I'm trying to look for it. Wow, look at this. A lot of crime in Midtown. So we'll get to that in just a second. This is what I wanted to get into. Robbery at 169th Street on the F line. So I believe the Courier had an article about this. We'll see if I can find it. That's the one Charlton was telling me to look up. Ooh, and then look at this. Pedestrian struck by vehicle at 43rd Avenue, Corporal Kennedy Street in Bayside. Pedestrian struck. Aided transportation with head trauma and it's critical. So possibly another hit and run that the Queens Courier couldn't cover. Alright, so let me look at these Manhattan incidents. Ooh, look at this. 2437th Avenue. Search for 3 suspects. Yikes. Then we have another robbery at Washington Square Park at the southeast entrance. Yeah, and then here's the other robbery. Attempted robbery at Times Square. So, man, Times Square is really seeing a lot of incidents in the past 2 weeks. I mean, this is scary. I mean, I really hope nothing happens at Bryant Park, because the last thing I need is to hear about crime at Bryant Park. Okay, here we go. Sharp object displayed. So, I'm just going to say this right now, folks. Please be careful. Don't display any expensive items. Because what happens is, you display an expensive item, and the suspects are going to look at you and they're going to take your stuff. You know, people really shouldn't be listening to music on the subway until things get under control. So let's see if we can find it. I believe this is it. Yeah. Okay. This is it. So I'm going to try to keep this video under 45 minutes. Okay, here we go. Cops searching for a man who allegedly stole a woman's phone in Jamaica. Sorry about that. Police are searching for a man in connection with a cell phone robbery at a Jamaica train station. According to police, a 25-year-old woman who was on board a southbound E train inside the Jamaica Van Wyck station around 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 13th. When the train doors opened, an unknown man snatched 25-year-old Galaxy cell phone from her hand. The unknown man then left the station and fled eastbound on Jamaica Avenue on foot. So, let's see if we can get some contact info here. Just want to make sure that we can do this correctly. If you have any information about the woman's cell phone, please give Transit District 20 a call at 718-558-5400. Again, that's 718-558-5400 if you know any information about this robbery that happened on May 13th. But let me just confirm if this is the same incident or a different one. I believe this is a different incident. Yeah, see, this is a different one. This is a different one right here. It's a way different incident. And speaking of Charlton's area, Queens Village. Let's read this. Man fatally shot while driving in Queens Village. Happened right on top of Francis Lewis Boulevard. 26-year-old man was fatally shot in Queens Village while driving from a party with friends. Police found a 26-year-old man with a gunshot wound inside to his torso inside a vehicle at the corner of Francis Lewis Boulevard and 111th Avenue at 4 a.m. on Saturday, May 15th. The 26-year-old man and the three passengers who were his friends were leaving a party at 119-14 Hollis Avenue in St. Albans, according to the New York Daily News, before he was shot by an unknown individual. The man, whose identity has not been revealed by the police, was in the driver's seat of an Acura sedan. The victim was taken to Queens General Hospital in Flushing, where he was pronounced dead. The three passengers remain at the scene when police arrived. No arrests have been made. The investigation is ongoing. So I believe this is the confines of the 105 precinct, if I am correct. Okay, but I want to see if there's any information about Woodhaven Boulevard. Let's see, because I believe Channel 4 was covering something this morning. Okay, maybe not. I believe that is the incident that happened. Well, if I can't find it, I can't find it. Unless maybe Channel 4 has a crime section I could look for. That could be it. Let's see. Oh, look at this! Asian man shoved on the subway tracks. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, and then this is disturbing. Vandal wanted for spray painting over 60 cars in a New York City neighborhood. I believe this is Astoria. Yeah, and then I heard about this one over the weekend. There was an attempted shooting in a Bronx subway station, and thankfully there were police there. One of the rare times. Alright, so let's read this one. An Asian man was thrown onto the tracks inside a station in Queens. This happened in Queens. So we're staying on topic. Let's move this a little bit to the left so you can see this. Police want to find the man responsible for shoving a 35-year-old victim onto the tracks at 7:45 a.m. at the 21st Street Queensbridge station on the F line. Witnesses reported that they told investigators the suspect walked up to the victim before shoving him onto the southbound tracks. The victim suffered a forehead laceration, is expected to be okay. He was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital for care. So, it is not clear what the victim said due to a language barrier between them. So, there you go. Another anti-Asian hate crime just got reported today. Alright, so let me put this on here. This has happened in Astoria, yeah. So, I brought this up before. So, This has been going on now for 2 months. As you know, I've covered this before. There's been a vandalism spree in Astoria. So, in these incidents, and in fact, hang on, can we look at the video? Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look how many vehicles have been vandalized in the Astoria area. And look, 2 north of the Grand Central. 2 north of the Grand Central is the Ditmar Steinway area. So it says that 60 vehicles have been vandalized. I mean, that's just disturbing. So they do have a suspect they want to look into. So this appears to be the same person that has been vandalizing cars since March. And he might be taking out a can of paint. Spray it, you spray it. Alright, so we'll get to some good news, believe it or not. As you know, I covered this story a while back. So a suspect has been apprehended for robbing grocery stores in Western Queens. So as you know, we talked about this back in April. Manuel Guzman Breton was charged with 8 counts of Hobbs Act robbery, which prohibits actual or attempted robbery or extortion that would affect interstate or foreign commerce. And as you know, there's been a pattern that has been happening in Jackson Heights, Corona, Elmhurst, East Elmhurst, and Woodside. And we talked about these incidents that happened between April 7th and the 27th. So it says here, Guzman Breton would face up to 20 years in prison if convicted. So he's likely going to be charged with a federal crime from what this is suggesting. And then lastly, let's get into this story, and this one hit way too close to home for me. Cops seek man who allegedly punched an elderly woman while exiting the Q36 bus in Jamaica. Yes, so we'll read this one and we'll wrap it up from here. Police are looking for a man who say they allegedly struck an elderly woman in the bus in Jamaica. According to police, a 75-year-old woman was exiting the Q36 bus at the northwest corner of Hillside and Egerton Boulevard on May 15th at 1:30 p.m. when an unknown man punched her in the head. The 75-year-old woman sustained substantial pain as a result of the seemingly unprovoked attack, according to police. EMS responded to the scene and transported her to a nearby hospital where she was treated and eventually released. Police released 2 surveillance video of the man who allegedly assaulted the woman, one of them taken from a business on Hillside Avenue. I will mention Channel 7, I think? Yeah, it was Channel 7. They interviewed the woman who was assaulted, and we know the victim is of Caribbean descent. The alleged individual was last seen wearing a bright orange do-rag, a black hoodie, multicolored pants, orange and black sneakers, and carrying an orange and gray backpack. No arrests have been made, ongoing investigation. So let's just take a look and see if we can watch this video very briefly. Yeah, this is alarming. I mean, this woman's just minding her own business, and all of a sudden, she just gets sucker punched. Very alarming. So, with that, we're going to wrap it up. A lot of crime we had to get to as usual. And I know that the crime watch doesn't stop, including the fire watch, but I just wonder how violent this weekend's going to be. Because given the fact that a lot of people are going to get 4 days off starting on Friday, going into Monday next week for the holiday, there is going to be a lot of cause of concern coming up. So, with that, we end the video right here. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, please take care.